said this last meeting.
Okay.
I can do that in this case.
All right. So before we call the meeting to order, we have to have a motion to appoint a delegate of the board to run the meeting until the board president is elected.
Nominate Board Member Fox.
Second.
Second, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. Go ahead and call the meeting of Monday, July 1st, 2019 for the Board of Education to order. I need a approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Is there any discussion? It's been moved and second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. Begin with the reorganization of Board of Education. We will first take nominations for the board president, and Mike is currently vice president.
I'd nominate Board Member Walker.
I'll serve as president.
I'll second the nomination.
You
I don't get to second.
You can second it, but it just needs a nomination.
Does he just have to accept the nomination first?
No, you still leave it open and accept other nominations.
Are there any other nominations for board president at this point? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor of Board Member Walker becoming board president, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Move on to nominations for vice president.
I nominate, well, actually, I think.
Do I do this now?
We're supposed to switch seats, yeah.
Oh,
Switch seats.
sweet. I'm done.
And name tags too, I guess.
Yeah.
Hammers.
White out the bottom of it.
You're up, dude.
All right. Well, I do want to thank the board for the opportunity to serve as president. I look forward to working with board members and the district and teachers and staff. In my new position, I will say that this is a time of great change, it seems like, for USD 49. We have an administration in the state level that seems to be committed to addressing education issues, including funding issues. At the district level, we have a new superintendent. Welcome, Ron.
Thank
We will have a new board clerk after we vote on it. Jess? We also have we will also have at least 2 new board members come January. So, I do have a recommendation for vice president. I recommend that the board nominate Lance Bickle as vice president, given his experience and tenure on the board. I'm firmly convinced I will need his help. Furthermore, I would appreciate a unanimous vote. But at this time, I want to open nominations up for vice president. Go ahead, Paul.
I'll go ahead and nominate Lance Bickle.
All right, Lance has been nominated. Do we have any other nominations for vice president? Hearing none. All those approve of Lance Bickle serving as vice president for this next year?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
I'm recusing myself from that.
All right, next item on the agenda.
For the vote, but
Yeah, I couldn't get away with that. All right, the next item is board clerk and keeper of records. We are to consider the nomination, the appointment of Jess, I'm sorry, Jess, I can't, how do you pronounce your last name?
Reeling.
Reeling, oh, so easy, it's right there. Jess Reeling as board clerk and keeper of the records for 2019-2020. And Renee Booth as deputy clerk per KSA 728202C.
So a nomination.
Just as an appointment.
No. I'd move to appoint
Okay,
Jess Reeling and Renee Booth.
Second.
all right. I don't believe we need to, all those in favor of the, let me stop myself. Anybody else have any comments? All right, all in favor of the appointment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Motion passes, appointment passes 7-0. Okay, next is the board treasurer. Consider the appointment of Carla Fellholter as BOE treasurer for 2019-2020 per KSA 728202D.
Make a motion to approve Carla Fellholter as BOE treasurer. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 720. All right, now we're moving into the next item on the agenda, audience participation. This is an opportunity for folks in the audience to comment to the board. Anybody from the audience would like to participate? Okay. All right, seeing none, I think we'll move to reports of committees. The board will hear reports from committees. Ron or Keith or Chris, do you have anything from the committees you want to report? Okay. Any comments, folks? No? All right, let's move on to this. Another item. Communications from other organizations. The board will review communications from other organizations, including minutes and agendas. This was in the agenda. Hayes Recreation Commission June meeting minutes and agenda. Any comments from any board members? Administration? Okay. Well, moving along pretty quickly here. Let's move to the report of the superintendent. Ron, you've been on duty for what, 8 hours now? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's getting close to 12, actually.
Okay.
No, first of all, it's kind of a surreal moment right now because it seems like I have been kind of waiting for this day to happen for a long time. Going back to February when I was, appointed and or picked, I guess, and so although I enjoyed where I was, you're always kind of looking and thinking, okay, when's it going to get there? It just seems like it took forever to finally get here. So day one was like first day of school, kind of a little nervous as you walk up the steps for the first time, trying to see if you're really going to know where to sit in the right spot or things like that. But it's really looking forward to the opportunity. I don't know if I have much to report tonight, but it's been a really good first day. I think the thing that I would probably report to you is just kind of where I'm at in the transition. And I have some goals that will probably, that include you or a part of our board. I think what I really will be doing this month and going forward even past this month is I will be doing a lot of listening, a lot of learning, and then I will be able to do some leading. So that is kind of where I will be taking this. What I'll be asking of a lot of different people, especially talking specifically to you as the board, you'll be seeing an email from me this week sometime. I was just trying to figure out my computer today, and where I'm going to ask to have a sit down with all board members one-on-one. Just like to steal an hour of your time. I'm more than willing to come wherever you would be convenient for you. If it doesn't work this week, next week, I'll email this week, but it'll be for next week. If it doesn't work next week, maybe we can do it the following week. Just like to sit down with all board members here in the beginning and ask some questions and get some feedback from you. I think part of where I am as a superintendent is I will be trying to assess just your perceptions of what you are thinking and where maybe some areas. I know we do have some goal-setting expectation with KSB coming up in August, but this is just kind of one-on-one, sitting down. There could be some follow-ups to that if we run out of time and we don't feel like we accomplished everything. But I think the thing that you're going to get from me as your superintendent is I really have 4 things that I'm going to really strive to do every day in this district. First of all, I'm going to be visible. That doesn't mean I'm going to be in your time and space all the time, but I'm going to be around the district. So I'm going to ask maybe at times to visit with you. Also, I want to build relationships with all our stakeholders in our district, and I'm really interested in maintaining the culture and building a positive culture in this district. And then, the last thing that I have to do, it's probably required, it's probably the most important, but I got to manage people and manage this district. So this is just kind of the transition of where I will be trying to lead this district. The work that you do is great, and I hope I can, add to what you guys are doing, at the board table with the work that I'm doing, on the ground. So I think the thing is, just today, just a little report, I did have the opportunity to get to the early childhood connections. Got a tour today, which was awesome. It's the first time I've been able to be in the building. Just a credit to you guys. That is phenomenal. To make that leap and make some really cool things happen for our birth to 5 kids. And so that's really encouraging to me. It's not ready to go by any means, but saw lots of cool things today. So that's just kind of the report in a nutshell. So I appreciate all your support and being allowed to come here and do this job. So that's it.
All right, well, thank you very much, and welcome to the district, as I mentioned before. Anybody have any questions for Ron at this point in time? All right. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I would like to move to approve the agenda as presented in the minutes for today. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's all yours.
All right, put Mandy down as a second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion about the consent agenda and the items in the consent agenda?
I had one little question.
Sure.
With the bills, I was curious just why there wasn't the detailed check register to look through for the bill approval. Usually there's that long list of itemized bills.
Based on the amount of bills that were
I think it
had,
was-
there was not an actual detailed register because of how the checks were processed. So this was really just closing up the fiscal year from what Rennie was telling me. So I don't believe that there was a longer list. Essentially what you'll see there is what actual checks were written. I think if you keep scrolling down a little bit more.
So it's basically like that
Th-
one.
That is
Yeah, the next page
really all
is-
the pages. Those are the actual checks that were written.
Thank you.
Very good. It was a much smaller amount than we usually have to. All right, any more questions about the consent agenda? Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of the consent agenda, vote aye.
Aye.
Say aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion passes 7-0. All right, let me get back to my agenda here. All right, the next item on the agenda is the new business. Wow. Okay,
You don't have to do those all tonight.
I'll just mention what they are, because they're new business. We need to review these until the next meeting. On new business, we have board president appointments. These include the Hayes Rec, Early Childhood Connections, Hayes Area Children's Center, Technology Committee, and the Foundation for Excellence board, 3 board members. So we will review those notes and vote on this next time. Is there any discussion about that item on the agenda today? Okay, the second item on the new business is contract for gifted services for USD 407. Chris, you probably need to explain this to us.
Yeah, I just wanted to get this out. So Russell, USD 407, approached me mid to late through the school year. So we've been in conversation for several months, working on some details to include the Russell kids in the special education co-op for gifted services only. So I included the agreement or the contract with them for next year, but I think we got all the details worked out. Basically, they'll do placement, they'll do child find, they'll bus kids over to participate in our Spark or our gifted program. So in essence, we treat them kind of like any of the other member districts for gifted services only, and then we'll receive 0.25 of base state aid per student that is receiving services. And the reason we picked that is we kind of worked backwards and I figured out what it's costing us per student. So in essence, we're getting about what it costs us per student from Russell, a little less than what it costs us, but by doing that, then it's actually reducing our cost per student. We didn't have to add any staff, and actually, we're reducing one para for gifted services. Wasn't required anymore based on student need. So it it really fit in pretty nicely. Doesn't add expense, helps us help a neighbor and reduce our cost per student a little bit. So,
And the date of the contract's August 1st, so we have time to review this and vote on it next time.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, and I mean, this has been through the council of superintendents and everything.
And with travel, all the expenses, everything else, we're,
Everything, so the students, they're taking care of any student transportation, and then as far as any staff transportation, so we'll go there for IEP meetings and monthly check-in, things like that on site. We're charging them 20% of the cost. The reason is because we get state aid on the first 80% for any sped travel. So in essence, they're reducing us our excess cost, or
Gotcha.
reimbursing us any of our excess costs.
thank you.
Very good. All right, sounds great. Okay, any questions for Chris at this point in time? All right. Now we move to old business. There are 5 items as on the old business. The first is student handbook revisions. We will vote on the approval of the elementary, middle school, and high school handbooks for 2019-2020. I have a question for our attorney. Can we vote on all 3 at one time, or do we need to vote on individually?
You could start off with a motion on all 3.
Okay.
Make a
Somebody
motion
wants
to approve.
Take one out separately, then they can ask the question.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the elementary school handbook, Hayes Middle School student handbook, and the Hayes High School student handbook, the revisions for the 2019-2020 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion about approving all 3 at the same time, or of the handbook?
I have
See-
a question.
Sure.
On the elementary handbook, Keith's title is listed as interim. And so I'm just curious if that's still a title.
Yes, technically, I still am until the next go around.
18 months.
You renew administrators to next winter.
And then he's not listed in the middle school handbook. I don't know if he on the
Right.
cover with everybody else, I don't know if he needs to be or not.
I like the idea of being consistent, so I'd recommend that we can maybe add an amendment to the motion to add Keith and his title to each of the other handbooks.
But and on the high school, he's listed, but he's not the interim. So. Sorry, Keith.
So correct title.
I'm good with those amendments.
Does that make sense to Jess? and
Yes.
Sarah? Okay. All right. Any other discussion or comments? I guess not. I don't want to rush, but I think we're good. Okay. All in favor of the motion to approve the handbooks with the amendment presented, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, say no or nay. And I hear none, so motion passes 7-0. Okay, the next item on the old business is the board attorney contract approval. The administration recommends that the appointment of Bill Jeter as the board attorney for 2019-2020.
I don't know.
You want to step out so we can talk bad about you?
I move to recommend, or to appointment of Bill Jeter as the board attorney for 2019-2020.
Okay, I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll give Sophia that one.
You see people.
Okay, discussion. All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next item is the sale of the Washington property. The board will discuss the
skip
sale
one.
of the Washington
Oh, we skipped
property.
one.
Skip one.
Oh,
Board policy.
you sure did. Board policy update. Item C, the board will vote on revisions to board policy DFAC. Does anybody from the administration want to explain that to us, or is it not necessary?
I can if you'd like me to.
Sure.
Okay, essentially, the additions to DFAC are requested to be added by Donna Hudson-Hamilton, our director there. Legal requirements for us to receive federal funding in the future dictate that that policy needs to be added in order for us to be able to pull down money when it's distributed to the district.
Okay. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve board policy DFAC, federal fiscal compliance,
All right.
as presented.
Very good, thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, Luke has seconded. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, now, item D, sale of
Now
Washington
we got
property. The board will discuss the sale of Washington property located on 305 Main Street.
I would make a motion to relist this for sealed bids, as we previously did.
Didn't we actually have, I'll second it just to open it up for discussion.
Okay?
Didn't we actually have a bid from somebody before to actually buy the property if this other deal didn't go through?
It was a lower bid.
I don't remember.
And
I
I don't
just-
know that they still want to do it. I mean, I think it would have to be reopened and extended the same opportunity as everybody else.
There was a bid for 200,000.
Yeah, but it was,
Okay.
really wasn't a bid.
Um,
They said we'll pay you 200, they had the check here.
yeah.
Well, I think we had, I mean, to me, it just doesn't make sense that they were the higher number. I wasn't in favor of it last time, but I get why it was passed, because it was the higher number and the timing wasn't that far off. But now we're another year away, and maybe they get it, maybe they don't. If they don't, then we've sat on it, and, you know, sometimes a bird in the hand's better than two in a bush. So I think we at least open it up, see what interest there is, if any, and
It's been enough time. I mean,
Yeah.
I would agree. I think it's fine.
if
And at the end of the day, I
See
don't
what
think we
else
have
is out
anything to
there.
lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
if they're the only one, then sign the addendum, or
If I
whatever.
recall, I think the one advantage of this group that's on the screen there is that their plan was to keep the facade the same, the old style building. Was that any discussion from the other group about doing that?
They weren't here, there was no questions asked, so.
The reason that the first group wanted to do it is because they were applying for historical marker.
And I thought he said they would try, but they couldn't guarantee that.
Right.
Because he said they tried that in a couple other areas and they were not able to keep the facade.
Yeah.
So,
It was an effort to do so.
yeah.
The facade, but not the building. Yeah, they were able to keep the facade, but not the building.
Okay, maybe that was
So
it.
they just tore out everything behind the front.
Gotcha.
Should good.
Okay.
Did you get a second?
Lance,
I'd
Lance
just
did.
open it up for discussion.
So we have a motion to relist the bid, relist it for open bid, and we have a motion and a
For
second.
sealed bids.
I'm sorry, open it for sealed bids there.
And I'll speak in favor of the motion. I'm also of the opinion this is though I like what they propose and what they want to do, this is just too long a lead time, tie up the property that,
And they seemed so confident the first time, and then we've had this stumbling block, so I feel like we should open it up again, too. I'm in support of the motion as well.
I know in their amendment, they kind of let us, they put in there for us to receive offers until October 1st, but did they say that if we go with the amendment, they would want it to be, it to
That's what it said, yeah.
be an equal offer or higher?
say equal or
So if we go with the amendment, like,
I would
Could it
assume we
take
would have the
something?
option to pick, I mean, whatever the sealed bid is, I mean, we'd have the opportunity whether we wanted to accept it or not. And then we can base that decision, in my opinion, and then sign this if we don't like those. At least that's my thoughts.
Bill, do we need to, is the other contract void based on time, or do we need to take action to void that before we list it for sealed bid?
How long was that contract? I think it was to
I would assume since that time frame's
It does say,
I don't know how it can still be.
Is it? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, the other contract provides to be completed on or before January 31st of 2020.
Well, that was the,
What was our
So we-
closing date, though?
That was the closing date.
So we need to void this one.
So what you think is we're
So-
locked into that contract until
Sign the addendum.
January?
Well, we are
We
until
don't have to get-
January 31st of 2020, but that's the buyer paying $500,000. So we could market it to somebody else with a closing date past January 31st of 2020. Or they could just release us out from under the terms of the
What kind of
contract.
penalties might we receive if we do end the contract that expires in January? Is there any?
Well, there wouldn't be any penalty.
Okay.
to us. Now, under the addendum, they, as Sophie mentioned, they give us the option to go ahead and try and market the property. But in that, we've got to market, we can't accept an offer that's less than $500,000.
That's if we sign the addendum.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
If
agree-
we
agree,
approve
sorry.
the addendum. Right.
So would, in your opinion, would we be okay opening it up for sealed bid, depending on what we get? If
I think
don't
we can
like-
open up for sealed
Then we can come back and
bids
sign
with
the
the
addendum?
understanding that we're not going to close until after, potentially after January 31st of 2020. And it'd be subject to the contract we've already entered into.
So,
There's no issue with opening it up while we're already under a
No.
signed contract.
No.
so we don't have to act on the addendum at this point? Is that,
Well, we can.
we can act on it, or we can just pull it, okay?
So the only action would need to be if we wanted to sign it, otherwise it's
If
just
we,
file 13.
at this point, the original contract is still enforceable. They have a right to close up until January 31st of 2020.
Right.
So
But
at any
this-
time between now and then, they can come up with, and pay us $500,000, and
Oh, okay.
it's done.
Okay, so with this amendment, basically that kind of ties our hands because we can open it up for other bids, but.
Bid.
Bid,
said
but we
with the
can't sell it for less
closing
than
it
$500,000.
after that date.
And
Right.
taking into account the last time we went through that
I understand.
process, we got one other
Radio.
bid for $200,000, so.
And you're talking just about, not the addendum, the existing contract.
The
right?
existing contract, right.
There's no need to act on the addendum if we,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was
No.
trying to get to. Is that
Okay.
if we don't pass this, then we're still with the other contract. Is the other the current contract, is the language is similar to this, where if we do find another buyer, it has to be the same amount? Or
No,
okay.
No.
Sure.
but we can't close on a new contract until after January 31st of 2020,
Okay.
unless they would go ahead and release us out from under the contract. By they, OPG Land Development,
Right.
because they still have the option to buy it
Up to that point.
up to that point.
And would they be eligible to bid on it as well?
If they came up with the money.
On the sealed bid, right?
Well, they could come back and offer to buy it for $300,000.
Right, that's what I'm asking.
That's
They
the
could bid
downside.
as well at a lower price than,
And it would be our option at that time to decide whether we accept that.
okay. So the motion is to do a sealed bid, but there's no motion on this amendment then, right?
Correct. Correct. There's no
Okay.
actual motion on the amendment here. So they can just, I
Basically
guess,
just putting it on hold to
theoretically,
see if
they can
it's
just
better
die,
off.
this amendment, I mean, this,
So we just don't act on
they
it?
just don't act on it. So the motion on the floor is to relist the property in a sealed bid. And it's been seconded. Any more discussion on that motion? We're all square? All right, I'm going to go for a vote. All those in favor of the motion to relist in a sealed bid, the property, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. President, I would suggest that I review those bids before they go out, the RFP,
I understand, right. To
be sure.
to make sure we're not in violation of the current contract.
Jess and Sarah, did you get all of that? Because it kind of, yeah, okay. Thank you.
can we amend that? Or I guess I'll just make another motion that
Okay.
we do not send that out until after it's been reviewed and approved by the board attorney.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second
Do you want,
to make sure that the bid is reviewed by the board attorney before it goes out. Any more discussion?
Yeah, maybe
Yes.
a friendly amendment, also for the board to see it after the attorney.
Okay, amendment to have the board review it as well. Any discussion?
Just so we know what's going on.
Well,
Yeah.
that's, What Paul added,
That's a-
I don't know if he's making a motion to
I'm
amend.
making-
If he did, it's not seconded, then you'd have to
I'm making-
vote on that before you voted
I
on it.
understand.
And
I
I'm
got
making
you.
a motion to add.
Okay, Paul's making a motion to add the board to allow us to review it before it goes out. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Add motion. Okay, we have a motion and a second for Paul's motion, amendment. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor of Paul's amendment
I
to,
actually do have some
Okay.
discussion, because how
Okay.
are we gonna, then we're gonna have to wait till the next board meeting to take any action, right?
I think the way, what you're talking, you'd have to approve it at the next board meeting.
okay.
We had it as an item before we could review it.
So the timeline is you can,
Timeline is
You put-
that
the
that I need
administration
to
puts a bid
approve the
together.
form of the RFP before the next board meeting, then it'll be approved by the board at the next board meeting.
When is the next board meeting?
July 22nd.
Be in 2 weeks,
22nd.
22nd, 3 weeks.
3 weeks, not 2.
okay,
I won't be here.
okay. All right. So we're still discussing Paul's amendment to the motion. Any more discussion on that? Okay, I'll call for a vote on Paul's amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The amendment passes 7-0. Now we're back to Greg's original motion.
With the amendment.
With the amendment. Very good. It's been seconded. Do we have any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of Greg's motion with the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Greg's motion passes 7-0 as well.
And we take no action.
Jess and Sarah, you got that figured out?
Yes.
Okay, next item on the agenda, under old business, is the renaming of the Oak Park facility. I would like to open it up for a brief bit of discussion before we actually
Do we
put
have a
motion out
list
there.
It's in the.
in the
It's in
thing?
the packet.
Keith, do you know, I know you were here when John was here, the other one, did the administration put together, I know one of the things that was talked about was then maybe putting together like a top 5 or something like that as far as recommendations from the administration side? Sure.
I think what was done is grouped together some of the similar names, so you can see like the State Early Childhood Learning Center was grouped down to, those were different versions of what.
Right.
I think
Okay.
estimated to be about the same thing.
Okay. So it looks like there were basically 3 of them added back to the list.
Yeah. Nola Oaks,
Emma Kolb,
and Donhurst.
Yep.
Is there, what's the, I mean, I know we're talking about signage, but short of signage, is there any emergency to get this voted on tonight?
I don't think so.
I know, if I'd like, I know I'm a short timer here, but I visited with Donna today a little bit about this. And one of the things I think, and I would agree, I don't necessarily know if there is a rush to do this. And one of the things that I visited with her, you know, they have spent considerable amount of time kind of already branding their program with Early Childhood Connections. And so I think this would be, in my, estimation, this would be a little bit something where we need to probably really process, do we really want to, look at renaming something that maybe has already been branded, and they've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into their program, and to suddenly just throw not that there's not an appropriate name on that list, but just, I think something that we should probably look and consider before jumping into renaming.
So was her recommendation to keep Early Childhood Connections as the name of that then, or did she say?
Or as part of the title?
Or
Is
as
that-
part of it?
Yeah, I think that was what we talked about, that she would like to just continue with Early Childhood Connections because they spent a considerable amount of time trying to, at the time, there was 2 different programs. And Donna, you feel free to jump in there, you know a little bit more. The two programs.
Didn't even see you out there, I just asked you.
At the time.
Yeah.
The time, I just came because I was curious.
You want to talk about your notes?
At the time, there used to be, PAS was our 0 to 3 program, and Pace Head Start was our 3 to 5 program. So we spent considerable time working with Docking Institute, doing some focus groups, things like that, to come up with a name, mission, and vision. And so that's where we came up with USD 49 Early Childhood Connections. I know, we're adding in the early childhood special ed classroom and the Hayes, the for-pay preschool classroom. Those two are the pieces that we're adding in. I still can see them as part of 49 Early Childhood Connections. I was just telling them that I really don't want to lose that identity
Makes sense.
as we're building, have been building it up. So I know there's options you can put with that, but I just shared that. As far as the other programming, we plan to still call ourselves USD 49 Early Childhood Connections because that's what's on our grants. That's what we've been doing.
I guess that'd be the question I was thinking of is you do a phenomenal job with grants. This whole project is because of you. Grant-wise, if we do change the name, is that bad? I mean you kind of alluded to that, but.
If you're consider that just the name of the building or if you're calling that the name of the whole program. If you have like early childhood connections at a park, it depends on how you structure that, if you're naming just the building or if you're thinking the programs will follow that.
I would make a motion that we table this until next meeting so we can hear some of this other on there as well. And like I said, if that's the case, so we can hear some of the recommendations.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
I have a question, because there's 4 different buildings there. Are you naming or wanting to name each of the 4 buildings something, or what are you referring to the maps?
Building 1, Building 2, Building 3, Building 4.
I like it.
That's what they were named, and that's what they're named on the plans, and so we've just kept that, and then we've numbered inside the building based on that building. So they're, like in Building 2, there's room 201, 202, 203, and Building 1. So that's how we use that to name it on the Now, we do plan on, once the decision's made, there's that signage out there, so in every building, we'll list which classrooms are in that building. So once the things are decided, we'll update all that signage outside.
Another question related to this in a way. So was there and maybe this is a superintendent question as well, a day for dedication to make this a community celebration that may predicate a time that we need to have decided?
Well, we had looked at doing the ribbon cutting August 2nd, but we're still working with the fire marshal exactly when we could take occupancy. So it might be that week that we're taking occupancy, so we'd rather not be trying to put away our things and plan for an open house that same week. And so we're looking at working with the chamber and moving it to the fall, hopefully around October. Then we would have Munger moved in there as well and be able to show the whole facility.
Okay, so but that gives some time for signage to, because if you're going to dedicate it, it'd be nice to dedicate it with the name. And you said early childhood connections, if you added a center to that, does that make any difference in terms of your market?
I don't think so.
Okay, just curious.
What was the last question, Paul? I didn't quite hear it.
Center.
Just
If you add early childhood connections.
Just adding, if you added a center to it.
Okay. I guess one of the things I was thinking too is, I think you kind of alluded to this, could we name it the complex something, the
Right.
building something, and then just have early childhood, I'm thinking on the sign, something complex or something education center, and then early childhood connections, we could probably do something like that too if we wanted to.
Lance, what additional information are you wanting to hear before the next meeting?
I just think more than anything, just hearing, like I said, this is news. I'd be just to be able to hear any other recommendations you guys had as far as on that. But I guess with the grants, I think give us a chance, I guess, to go through and I would assume everybody could probably make a decision before the next meeting then, as far as if they have a top 5 or, even if you have some recommendations as far as if it is a building and then with early childhood connections as part of it, I'd be welcome to hear hear those if you had any.
Yeah.
Some of my biggest concerns when we started getting the list was to make sure that we weren't naming it similar to other programs within the state.
Right.
Because then that causes problems.
Yeah, if you had a top 5 recommendations and you wanted to email that to us, I mean, I sure know I would appreciate that.
Okay.
The only other thing I'd like the board just to consider, we do directory updates for our physical locations for the buildings, usually at the end of July, beginning of August. So if a decision could be made at that time, it would allow us to clean that part of it up, as we would technically not be closing a building, but since it's already been repurposed at that point, so we would need to update that information too.
Cool.
No, she's leaving.
But a real quick question on that. So early childhood connections will be in the book with the new address. But if we don't have a building name attached to it yet, it would still be the same address. So, okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to table this till next meeting. All those in favor, vote by or indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, I believe that is all of the items on the agenda. Now I'll open it up for discussion by board members and agenda requests. Anything else you want to add to next meeting or future meetings? All right, hearing nothing, I'll move on to the executive session portion of our meeting. We do need to hold 2 sessions tonight, it looks like. I move the Board of Education recess into executive session along with, where's my notes here? Superintendent, the Director of Finance, and the Director of Special Education to discuss matters relating to employer-employee negotiations, whether or not in consultation with the representative or representatives of the public body or agency as per KSA 754319B3, with the open session to resume in this room in, so we'll say 7:45. Is that enough?
I guess we can start now.
Oh, so,
Back at
okay, we'll start the
7:45.
meeting at 7:15 and come back here at 7:45. Is that good?
Sounds good to me.
Any second on that?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Nay. Say nay. Okay, just to be clear, motion passes 7-0. We'll be back in 7:45.